like to share with you a story of a business transaction, a domestic business transaction. And as I start the story, or maybe not at the very beginning, but you may think this story sounds familiar. And if you do, I'll know why you're thinking about it. And I'm even going to share the familiar story later on, B'li Neder. But the story I tell you is a contemporary story. The one that it may sound familiar to is already recorded in the Gemara Shabbos. So that's taking us back, maybe approximately 1,500 years. And this story maybe happened within the last 15 years. So 100 times different. The setting is in Israel. It's a Friday morning, more accurately an Erev Shabbat morning. And a very fine, observant Jew who loves his role in getting ready for Shabbos walks into the fish market and asks the owner of the market, who's the one behind the counter, pointing to the general area where the larger fish are located. He asked the owner to please select one of those large fish and prepare it for him to take home, meaning cleaned and filleted. Well, the owner picks up one fish, and as was customary before the cleaning starts, weighs the fish. It was a gesunter fish. He told him the price of the fish, and our friend Chaim happily agrees to it. It's a lot of money, but it's money for a mitzvah, for Shabbos. He's good. So the owner flaps the fish down on his work table, removes the scales, and then slices open the fish. His eyes pop open. Inside the fish is a gold necklace, which is interspersed with multiple diamonds, the real thing. And he has a very happy face on, but the customer, our friend Chaim, says, wow, look how good God is to me while I'm doing this mitzvah of getting ready for Shabbos, that my fish should have such a valuable necklace inside. Wow. And the owner says to him, Ani mitzta'er yedidi, my good friend, I must tell you, that's not the way I see it. What I weighed the fish, we agreed on a price for the fish. I guess true, he has to deduct a little weight for the necklace. But you didn't buy a necklace, you bought the fish. But the customer, Chaim, says, what are you talking about? You weighed the fish. You told me how much the price would be. We agreed on the fish, and you cut it up for me. So what's ever in the fish should be mine. They couldn't agree. They're amicable about it, but couldn't agree. They agreed to go for a din Torah. Before we tell you about the din Torah, the story may sound to you familiar from the Gemara story of Yosef Mokir Shabbat, or Yosef Mokir Shabbos. The story in the Gemara Shabbos, Daf Kuf Yud Tet, 119, talks about Yosef, who had a reputation for trying to make his Shabbos table, his menu, be the best. And it's an Erev Shabbos. And late in the day, the fishermen catch a very nice sized fish. It happened to be, obviously they didn't know, it happened to be a fish that swallowed a very valuable stone, noted as a pearl. Must have been some pearl, because it was worth like 13 shiploads of valuables. And some fellow who was trying to preserve his money and protect it converted all his assets into this one precious stone. And he hid it in his hat. And while he was on his boat, his hat blew into the water. He was not able to retrieve it, and a fish swallowed it up. And this is the fish caught Erev Shabbos late in the day. The fishermen come to the shore and they say, anybody here know who would be interested in buying a very special fish? And while most people started to say, what are you talking about? You know how close it is to Shabbos? Who's still going to be shopping? Somebody calls out and says, you know, Yosef's always in the market for beautiful food for his Shabbos table. And indeed, Yosef picks it up. He buys it. And he brings it home and quickly prepares it before Shabbos, slices it open, and finds this extremely valuable pearl, which is his, and he keeps it. Now, is that story of Yosef Mokir Shabbos the answer to our case here in the contemporary scene? Well, the big difference is that Yosef Mokir Shabbos paid for the fish, and it became his, and then he found the chain. But a friend Chaim, who was shopping, did not pay for the fish, and he did not make a kinyan. On portable items, it does not become ours until we make a kinyan, a form of acquisition. We pick it up, we push it, we pull it. And that we could even do before we pay if the original owner gives us permission. But Chaim in the fish market did neither. Now, one could argue there is such a case. Let's say if the customer asked the fisherman, the market owner, to cut him the fish and then change his mind, so that may well obligate the consumer to pay for the fish. The Shulchan Aruch actually has a similar case where somebody places an order for custom furniture, doesn't pay for it, not even a deposit. People trusted one another. And the artisan completes the project, gets in touch with the one who ordered it, and then the fellow says he doesn't want it anymore. You don't want it anymore. I've just spent the entire week working on your furniture, and not too many people want this furniture. So if that's indeed true, that there isn't a market for this furniture within a reasonable amount of time, then the customer who ordered it is obligated, is chayav, he's obligated to make payment to the artisan, to the woodworker, because it was by his request that he caused the artisan to purchase the materials or to use materials they had already purchased. One way or the other, it's the same. To invest his hours of labor to create the furniture. And if his refusal is going to cause a loss, he must pay for it. And the same would be for the fish. If there's no customer for the fishes that's already been sliced in half, then the customer would have to pay for it. But that obligation to pay comes out of causing damage to another, not because that person is the owner of the fish or of the furniture, as the case might be. So because our friend Chaim, who is looking forward to having a beautiful Shabbos with a nice fish, because he never paid for it and never made a kinyan on the fish, the necklace actually belongs to the owner of the fish market, who in a sense probably acquired it as soon as the fish were delivered into his place. The question would be more tricky if Chaim had paid for the fish but not made a kinyan. Maybe sometime in the future, in some setting, we'll explore that question.